Some may scoff at the idea of a multiverse. However, it is frighteningly little. I mean, we know frighteningly little about it. Don't believe me? Let's take a look at some alternate cold opens, shall we?
Where are all these single socks coming from?
I don't know. They just were here when I woke up today.
Have you been running laundry? I'm confused.
No, they do all of our laundry for us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. How did they? But why'd they leave them here?
And why are they only one?
Where is there any sock here that is a pair?
No. They're all single socks.
Where'd they come from? I've never put two socks in a load of laundry and only gotten one back. They always both come back,
Yeah.
right? So why are there just ones showing up here? In fact, I think everyone in the universe has both their socks. So
Yeah.
whose socks are these?
Whose socks are these?
Not mine.
The
Are they yours?
The one-footed man.
He's out there somewhere.
I hate Mondays.
The single worst day of the week is Mondays. I think that's true wherever you go.
Yeah, always.
Mhm.
Imagine a world where, I've sat here my whole life.
Of course, I can't imagine a place where you didn't sit there.
Right. Imagine if we started in our other places.
You mean way back in episode 1, if I had sat there
Yeah,
and you had sat here,
exactly. Would have been weird.
that would have been wild.
Like it could have just changed the whole show.
Yeah, right. It's what's the butterfly effect? The
Yeah.
domino meme.
Well,
Yeah.
I think there's a little bit of radiation closer to this seat, so I'm
That would have probably
slowly
caused.
getting a
yeah.
brain tumor.
Yeah, that would have probably caused a second 9/11 if I had sat there originally.
Definitely.
Yeah, not by us, of course, but no, yeah, of course not. Can you imagine if I was sitting there?
Anyway,
Oh, jeez.
good morning and welcome back.
Back to the morning mayhem talk show. You ever get that feeling of deja vu?
Again?
Again? Wait. Anyway, we're back. We're doing another good old-fashioned episode here for our amusement.
Yeah.
Whatever they think, but it's for our amusement, right?
Exactly. We're having a good time.
Yes. Today, we have compiled some fun stuff for you in the means of our favorite comic books, right? Because comics have played a large role in history.
Yes.
If you read any of those like
Human
comic
evolution.
histories. Yes, exactly. We would not have gotten where we are today without pictures that make us go the funny haha, or pictures that make us go the big sad
Mm-hmm.
when you kind of lose your parents in a back alleyway and become a crime-fighting vigilante. Surprisingly, that fits lots of people, not just Batman,
Yes.
who has been on the show a couple times, I think.
Yeah.
Having
we
trouble
actually-
remembering.
yes.
Anyway,
Yes, I think we have met the Caped Crusader a time or two.
yeah.
But besides those kind of comics, there's all kinds of comics, Like there's little cartoon comics, little one panel comics.
Yeah.
I actually have an uncle who makes those for the New
Oh.
Yorker.
That's pretty cool.
It's very funny.
He like draws and writes them and
yeah.
everything. Yeah.
And then of course we have back in ye olden days, caveman comics. They would just sketch like a dinosaur on the wall and point and laugh.
Yeah. I wonder if that's true. I wonder if those like ancient writings we found on the side of cave walls were like humorous to them.
It has to be. At some point in time, they drew something and they thought, "Oh, that's funny looking." Because we do that in middle school. I
Yeah.
still do that now.
I've always wondered kind of, about like the adolescence of people and the history back, right? Like what did people in the medieval ages like do for fun when they were kids? Feels like they were stricter back then, right? They're like, you're becoming a squire, John. There's no doubt about it. Sorry, John the 17th.
Lots of work.
Lots of work, but they must have played, right? I feel like child nature compels play. It compels comic reading.
Yeah.
How do they survive without comics? How'd they do it?
I mean, they probably made their own.
Yeah.
Like Wheat Man.
Wheat
all the
Man?
little farmer boys, they were obsessed with Wheat Man.
Your
The
friendly,
masked protector of the grains.
your friendly province feudal system wheat man.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. I can get behind wheat man.
And his trusty sidekick, Corn Boy.
Corn boy, wheat man
Corn
and corn
Lad, sorry.
wheat man and corn lad. That sounds like something we could be in, like, I don't know, an alternate universe or something.
Yeah.
Of course, I'd be corn lad. Something of a corn myself. But anyway, any avid comics nerd will like tell you about like the phases of comics. There's like the Silver Age and the Gold Age, back when people were like
Bronze
in the
Age.
Bronze Age, and the what are we in, like the Copper Age now or something. But anyway, when they were like reading comics, of of like the rise and fall, like Superman and Batman and Charlie Brown, and a couple of our contenders. And yeah, comics, as you were saying, can be divided into a couple different like categories, right?
Yeah.
Action, adventure, humor, little panels.
In terms of funny comics, they're always great. Give us a laugh. But they're just lacking a little something, you know?
Right. But also then in terms of like bang pow wham comics, they're sometimes lacking a little bit of down to earthness, a little bit of slice of life mentality like we get in, I don't know, Peanuts or something. Or Far Side, right?
Slice of life that you get in Peanuts.
Yes.
What do you get in Peanuts?
You know, like Charlie Brown has to like go through all these hardships that are just normal life hardships. Like Charlie Brown doesn't have supervillains chasing him, but you know what he does have? A dog that's causing problems. He has like the little red-haired girl that he's trying to like woo and convince to like marry him one day or something. He has like problems at school. Everyone like bullies him. He's like the classic underdog protagonist, but he's just like a kid, and it's kind of nice. You know where the two meet? This really hasn't been a thing since till recent years, but the graphic novel industry, which I was kind of a late game to.
Oh.
But yeah, it's like action adventure plus the comedy, right? I read a graphic novel series growing up called Bone. They were very funny. It was like these three little bone guys who were like cartoonish. They made their way into like a more real life looking world, and they just had like adventures and ran around some valley trying to like stop a cult or something. It was weird. Um,
Graphic novels are cool.
yeah, they're very very epic. But yeah, the comic industry is gooch. It's on the decline recently, according to like the
Is it
comic
really?
people. Yeah, think about it. We don't read comics anymore.
Yeah, true.
We watch TV shows now.
Yeah, that's where for comics, even for me now, I used to read some comics, but now I don't read the actual comics as much as I follow with the overarching story of comics.
Right.
So I keep track of like what's going on in the comics and what story are they building towards. I don't read the comic itself.
Like they do the series and like the arcs and
Right.
stuff and Marvel.
Which actually is something that's interesting about comics is if you pick up, your little 99 cents comic book from the store, Amazing Spider-Man number 52, whatever. It's decent, right? And you read it and you're like, whatever.
Yeah.
But then when you compare some of those stories in the overarching like story, if you look at it as if it's not a comic but instead a long lore, then it's much cooler.
Yes.
In this one, Spider-Man just fights some random villain, and you're like, oh, but he comes back 4 more times in these different forms. That's much cooler.
Yeah, it's good to look at it that way. And people have like compiled summaries of each of the different arcs that you can go around through. I think that the lesser side comics on our list today or on our stack today, the ones that kind of I grew up with, also have arcs. There would be ones where they would do serieses that would like the one strip and the Sunday strip would like feed into a regular strip. Like I remember a long series of like 3 weeks on a Garfield one where he gets like captured and like is taken like the pound, then has to escape and goes back. But each of the 3 little panel ones have like punchlines at the end. So
That just made me think of totally random. Homeward Bound.
good movie.
Have you seen that movie?
Oh, yeah.
I just thought of the pound
Good
scene
movie.
in that.
But
It's
yeah,
a sad movie.
it is a sad movie. Go watch Homeward Bound. You know what you should not watch though? Where the Red Fern Grows. Too sad.
Never heard of it.
It's like another one of those old yellow dog movies where the dogs die at the end. Sorry, spoilers.
That's not sad.
But yeah, you know what is sad though? TV shows taking over the comic industry, which I was saying earlier. I can guarantee, in fact, that all of the people right now watching this show are not reading comics. If you are out there actually right now reading comics and watching us, you're probably not. I
No.
can't think of a conceivable universe where that would take place.
No, I mean that's partially why TV, besides just the normal like people are now more addicted to screen than to book. The reason they like comic book shows is because in a show you can keep track of character development more than you can in a comic series.
Yes.
Because in a comic series, it might be a little harder to describe exactly what each character's thinking and feeling every time. And they grow, yes, in the comic series, but it takes a much longer period of time than it does in a show.
Yeah. So you gotta follow the development. I guess sometimes like movies and shows have to fit in character arcs and storylines in lesser time. Then you can take your time and just get to know the characters over the course of maybe 10 years. I don't know.
Well, I mean
Their
that's
long run.
that's the point of any created narrative, right? Is development. be it comic book or TV show. That's the whole point. Is eventually your characters have to develop. I mean, I'm sure we've. No, I don't.
Yes, we went through phases.
Have we developed?
You can cut back to the golden age, or what I like to call the golden haired age, where he was blonde for a little bit. Remember that? We can go back to well, we had a couple other phases. We had the lone phase back in season 1, where we had like no guests for like 5 episodes in a row because we kept forgetting to get guests.
Yeah.
There's phases in our
Okay.
history as well.
Okay, we've developed.
We've suffered trials, tribulations, and since you guys have missed us, actually, all the people in the corner, remember all the previous guests? We woke up one morning, they were gone.
Yeah.
They
Well,
maybe
and-
released into society, maybe killed. No.
right, and that's what inspired us to start season 2.
Exactly. The guestless season.
Yeah.
Wait,
No, we've already had.
but she didn't count. She was Mr. Guest.
Well, no. Now that all the guests disappeared, there's more space in the corner, so we can continue to pile up bodies.
That's right. Maybe that was the plan. Yeah. Editor, tell them the truth. I don't really know what's going on. But nevertheless, comics. I was watching the Lego Batman movie the other day, which good movie. And they made a couple jokes on like Batman's story progression throughout the years about how they were like Alfred was talking about like his phases, and he was like, you had the emo phase, the movies phase where there was a bunch of movies about Batman, like the Dark Knight trilogy and stuff. And then like the 1966 Batman show. It was like the Bang Pow Wham, where they're like when they punched them,
Yeah.
they're like the words materialize on the screen, like this, pow. Yeah, exactly like that. But yeah, Batman's gone some changes. The Batman comics are the ones I'll talk about first because Batman.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, the Batman comics. Do you want to just let's start with the highlights.
Yes, and then we can go to
Top
the low points.
3 arcs, basically.
Let's see.
I can give you the most famous.
Okay,
Um,
the major Arkham one, where he.
what's it called?
I don't remember any of the names of the arcs.
Well, Breaking of Batman.
Oh, Bane. In like 2010, that was around
I
then.
don't remember.
Fun fact: my neighbor, there was this guy who lived in my street for a while. He moved away, but he lived in my street. His brother was writing the Batman comics at that time, and he was the guy who invented and introduced the character Bane. The guy who invented Bane's brother lived on my street.
Wow.
Yeah.
I kind of feel like that kid was
So I'm-
lying to you, but
No, he was a grown man.
oh,
Yeah.
okay. I was like, that's a child. He's
No,
definitely
he was
lying.
he was an old guy.
Okay, I'm like, because Bane was made.
Whose brother was like the main Batman writer for like 8 years or something like that.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So he invented Bane, introduced him into the comics, and
Yeah.
Bane.
The breaking of that. I mean, that's why Bane is the perfect Batman villain, despite what those Joker fans may say. Because Bane, when he meets him, right? That's why in the comics, it's not in a specific comic, it's not great, but the story that develops is Bane is Batman's equal in strength and mental capacity, right? Because Batman is the
Right.
world's greatest detective, and Bane is an amazing strategist who also can beat Batman with his mind.
And they both have funny voices. It's perfect. Batman talks like this. And Bane is up here.
Yeah.
Hello, Batman.
That's just because of Tom Hardy,
But it
but
was phenomenal.
yeah,
And now Bane lives on forever in my mind with that voice in the comics.
but he's dope.
You have to come up with like voices for people. Like whenever you make a comic into a show or into anything like acted out, like a play or anything, you have to come up with the voices for the people. Like think about this: when they first invented Batman, do you think they really intended for him to be like, "I'm dark and ready"? No, probably not. He's probably just supposed to be like a normal guy, detective guy,
Yeah,
and then adapted him to the main screen. The big screen. He was like, Robin.
yeah,
So,
yeah, makes sense.
just the societal evolvement. I don't know. Yeah, Batman in contrast with Superman is one of the cool comic thing ideals because Superman came first technically. And then they were like, we need a more nitty gritty superhero. We need more one that's like down to earth, that's relatable. Except
Well,
he
he
has
wasn't
billions and
nitty-gritty.
billions of dollars.
Yeah, he wasn't nitty gritty to start. It was Detective Comics,
Right. Exactly.
which is kind of funny because it literally was Detective Comics, and they're like, oh, but he's also a superhero.
Hey, that's the best kind of detective. You can like be a vigilante and detective.
This is perfect. Sherlock, you know how Sherlock like ended
Yes.
the Netflix show?
Don't spoil it now.
I'm just gonna say they're gonna bring it back. Sherlock becomes Batman, the world's greatest detective.
Aren't Sherlock's parents already dead at the beginning of the show? Are they?
No.
They're in it. At some
Yeah, they're
point.
in it.
Okay, they're in
Yeah.
like one scene though.
Yeah, but
Yeah. Oh, so they're gonna
Sherlock's
die.
parents will die, and he becomes Batman.
The Holmes are really the Waynes.
Yes.
Maybe he becomes the British Batman, Britman.
It's already a thing, Captain Britain.
Yeah, but they can be Britman now. Captain
Britman.
Britain can be no. Captain Britain is in Marvel.
I know, but it's already a
And
British
then DC can be
superhero.
Britman.
We don't need 2 British superheroes. We don't even need 1.
Quality to the Britmobile.
No.
The Britmobile. That's an idea and a half.
I think it's actually what it's called.
Captain Britain's car is the Britmobile.
I don't remember. It's literally it's like
What if Batman drives like a triple decker like red English bus?
Captain Britain's car is literally it's like a Mini Cooper with like the British flag on it.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
I only know that because he's in like the Lego Avengers game, and so I like
Okay.
unlock the character and you unlock his car with him.
Yeah.
You can summon his car and like drive around New York in it. Which is weird because why would Captain Britain be in New York? Anyway, continuing on. These right here are representations of the 3 major comics I grew up with reading. The first one, Garfield. Garfield good. My mom really liked Garfield when she was little, so she got me like a bunch of the Fat Cat 3-packs for my birthday. That was like introducing me to the Fat Cat and his owner John. So yeah, Garfield was like kind of my first comic introduction.
I've never read Garfield.
Flip it open to a random page. Let's just like see what one of them happens. This is for the record.
Straight
This is,
up just a fat orange.
yeah,
cat.
this is one of the earliest Garfield comics ever. I think it is actually the first collection. From way back in like the 19 somethings. I don't know.
Garfield has a staring contest.
Yeah, I mean like
He's-
classic.
He crawls into an oven.
And
Sorry, an electric stove.
oh, they didn't have ovens back then. But yeah, and he constantly harasses his owner. Like look like from the first of the book, he's like really fat, and at the end he's like it's like a full cartoon now.
Yeah, I mean he's still really fat, but yes.
Yeah, he always remains really fat. But see, it's that slice of life mentality. You just have a fat cat, right? And sometimes when you have a fat cat, life is hard.
Reminds me of Community.
And-
Fat dog it.
That's right. And since we were talking about it, Peanuts. It's a large Peanuts collection.
Yeah.
From 1970 to 1980, about lots of the different the Peanuts comics. Peanuts went for 50 years. Can you believe that? Peanuts started in 1950, and his last strip was in the late 2000s.
That's
Year 2000.
longer than The Simpsons.
It is. It is. So there were a lot of Peanuts comics and over bajillions of characters. But the story mostly follows the Brown family with Charlie Brown, Sally Brown, and Snoopy as they.
Why are they
Right.
called the Peanuts? Actually, I don't know this. I never read those comics either.
I think the original intent was it to be called like the little people or something, because they're all kids or something.
The little.
And then there was like
People.
already a comic called Little People, so they're the Peanuts because they're little people.
That
or
makes
something
sense,
along
Because
those
you're like, oh
lines.
hey Peanut, and you know that's
Yeah.
what grandparents say to children.
Yeah, hey, you little peanut. And so
It's
yeah,
funny. That would be a great. Just the little people.
the little people. But I think there was already a comic that didn't do too well and died called The Little People back in the 1950s.
Small humans.
So
Children.
they decided, nope, we're gonna do this. And of course, the pet that has the characteristics of a human became the best character. Snoopy, of course, being the most iconic character. Who can go? The World War I flying ace and his Sopwith camel.
Yes.
Um,
The Red Baron.
yeah, the World War I flying ace comics were super cool. It was a very cool idea. I don't know which came first actually. The World War I's narration of himself or World War I. I can't really tell, you know. I don't remember.
I think he probably did it before the actual plane did
Before the actual planet did it.
it. Yeah.
So Charles Schultz like invented World War I. He said the Great World War is coming, and then
Well, and
Also-
the Red Baron definitely was inspired by Peanuts.
yes, of course, he's like, that's a cool name. I'm gonna call myself the Red Baron and
Yeah.
fly around. Also, here's another continuity thing. Why would Snoopy call himself the World War I flying ace if he's in World War I? Back then they called it the Great World War, right? So Snoopy is a time traveler.
He knows.
It's a conspiracy. Yeah.
That's always the. I don't know why that has to be a thing, but in every time travel show, they always eventually go back to World War One, and they call it World War One, and somebody there goes, "You mean there's another one?"
Yeah.
It's so funny.
Someone made that joke, and then everyone's like, "It's super funny. We're making it all
Yeah.
our shows."
It is funny.
It is funny. It's a great joke. But yeah, the World War I flying ace. I like how his plane is his
House?
his dog house. Did you see the Peanuts movie they made in the last couple of years?
No, and I never will.
It was decent. It was very wholesome.
I don't care.
Yeah, it was kind of a love story. All right, but then the last one I'll talk about is my favorite. I think Calvin and Hobbes.
Calvin and Hobbes was
they ran for 10 years.
either a ripoff of something or something ripped it off. Now I'm trying to remember which.
Well, it's a ripoff of the philosophers John Calvin and Thomas Hobbes, and they're
No. Boy talks to talking animal that nobody else
stuffed animal.
can see.
Winnie the Pooh.
Thank you.
Christopher Robin. Winnie the Pooh. I don't think was Winnie the Pooh ever a comic book. I think Winnie the Pooh was actually a
No.
guy's bear that he had, and then the guy was like, "Oh, we're gonna make like a story, write a story about that." Like he wrote a book about it.
I'll
was like his
I'll
bear
have to
named
look it
Winnie.
up later. But it was ripped off by something. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Or ripped off something. I don't know.
Either way, but yeah, Calvin and Hobbes is really good. I like the philosophic nature to it alongside the slapstick comedy. Or there's I don't think it's in this book, but there's a funny one where they're sledding down a winter hill, going like 90 miles an hour or something, and like barely avoiding lots of obstacles.
As you do.
And like Calvin is asking Hobbes about like he's like, Hobbes, do you think man is mostly good, evil, or neutral? And Hobbes is like trying to tell him to stop avoid all the trees and cliffs and stuff. And he's like trying to get him to answer the question. And by the end, or it's like good, evil, or crazy. And then Calvin crashes the sled, and he's like, it's really rude for you to keep changing the subject. Hobbes is like, it's crazy. Human beings are crazy. But yeah, they have like little proverbs and parables. Fun fact: guy who made Calvin and Hobbes, Bill Watterson, later became a poet. He wrote some really funny poems, which are the best kind of poems.
Funny. I would concur.
Yep.
Because I'll see you in the funny papers.
That's right. Why the funnies for like the papers? Yeah.
The funny papers. Funny
Yeah.
pages. Funny pages.
Isn't Garfield still going on? I think it is. I think all the rest of these have been deducted.
We just need to
knocked
put
off.
out after this. We'll put out a poll. What's the best? Garfield, Calvin and Hobbes, or Peanuts?
Of those three. Another good one is The Far Side by Gary Larson. That I just wasn't into as much.
Trying to think
He does
of
the one
another.
panel ones. That's just like a
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I think he has a one where he's like deer that are hunting humans. It's like weird like philosophical concepts.
No, there's lots of funny stuff.
And
That's-
then there's the anti-DC, the other superhero guys. The Marvel. The other superheroes.
Look at, iconic.
They're pretty cool.
Movies aside,
Yes, no movies
Iconic.
today. It's comic day.
the reason, okay, in Marvel versus DC Comics, it depends on your personality, really.
Of course.
If you want murder and a little bit grittier psychological development, that's going to be DC. Mostly because, and I don't like that because I think it's a bit repetitive at points because they're like, hey, we have Arkham Asylum, so we're just going to have a bunch of really crazy villains, and they're all just going to happen to have mental illness.
And mental illnesses that relate to certain like themes.
Right. Which is why Marvel doesn't have that as much, right? And Marvel's just like, there's evil people, and DC's like, no, we're just going to have a lot of sick people.
Right.
Not a fan of that, because that's just kind of... Although, DC, I'm just going to creep you out. Not creep you out, but...
Creep me out.
Two of the weirdest DC villains with like twisted backstories that I've ever heard of. There's a dude called the Mad Hatter
Oh yes.
who,
Terrifying. Yeah.
like as a child, like got abused. They were all abused, but like he was like in love with this girl, and called her. Her name was Alice, or he called her Alice, whatever. He fell in love with Alice in Wonderland stuff, and he grows up to build mind control technology into hats.
Which is
And
awesome.
tries to control people, and then falls in love with another girl and stalks her and tries to put a hat on her. And like weird dude.
Because he's a bad guy.
Yeah.
See, all the DC bad guys, no father figure. That's what I'm saying.
And
Anyway.
then they're all just whack. But like Scarecrow, I remember the pictures in some of the new comics are scary because he got like
Laughing
locked
gas.
in a cellar with like dead bodies,
Yikes.
and then he grew up to be creepy. I'm like, no wonder he's weird. But
If he only had a brain.
we don't have that in Marvel.
I think there is some. I think
We have
Marvel.
wholesome evil.
Yes, the Marvel bad guys are more like ha 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 mwahaha, I'm evil because.
Yeah.
That's general. They avoid that pretty well in the movies. But I kind of like it, right? Being
Yeah.
evil for the sake of evil.
Because there's
One day, you know what we should do one day? Have an evil episode. Anyway,
I feel like we've already done that, but
deja vu.
somewhere else.
Do you ever
maybe.
get that feeling of deja vu?
Again?
What? Oh, anyway. But yeah, they're just evil for the sake of being evil, and the heroes are pretty wholesome as a whole.
Yeah. Okay. Also, in DC, there's just Superman's like good old fashioned values man.
That's Captain America.
In Marvel, he's literally like America.
Okay,
Like-
for sure. I do like Captain America more than I like Superman. I do not like Superman. I think that he is overall lame.
Because he's overpowered.
Yeah, because faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, and he can leap tall buildings in a single bound.
Yeah.
It's insane.
But Superman.
Captain America also kind of bad. Iron Man and Batman are Iron Man, Batman, and Spider Man are my three favorites in this overall comic genre.
That's
And
fair.
the reason I like them each is because they're down to earth in different ways. Spider Man's like a poor kid,
Mhm.
which is like great, and he's like funny, and he's like he's kind of like that classic Charlie Brown type. And then Batman and Iron Man are just dudes,
Rich dudes.
rich dudes, and that's cool.
Yeah, they're the classic. If a dude had a lot of money and tech smarts, what would he do? He would build dope gadgets.
Yes, exactly. That's what I would do if I
Yeah.
wasn't still locked in the basement after years and years. But yeah,
But also, we like Captain America because they straight up that was like pro America propaganda, right?
Yes.
It's just there's comics of straight up just him beating up Nazis.
yes, that was like a thing for all. That wasn't like the whole first movie, in fact. Beating up the Red Skull,
Movie,
all the guy.
but comics that was like a comic.
I know, but in the whole comics.
Yeah.
Hydra was a thing for a long time in the comics. With like making evil versions of the Avengers. and
Yeah. Lots of stories there.
lots of stuff.
Captain America actually dies. He gets like sniped.
They all die at some point.
Yeah, but okay, so the best Marvel storyline that I am aware of, best two,
Mhm.
I actually think you probably will have heard of one of them. World War Hulk
Yes. Very cool.
is such a good storyline just because the concept is great, right?
Hulk
You
just
have a
matter
super
and
powerful
matter.
character. You have all the other good guys saying, "We're scared of you. Let's kick you into space."
And he comes back and goes, "Bah!"
Yeah, and then it's
Yeah.
a great storyline because he's justified in his anger.
Yes.
Except he also is like trashing the planet, so everyone's like,
Ooh.
you don't know who to root for, and
There's
that's why it's
Slovakia.
good because it's good guys against good guys, and they're both technically right.
Yes. I think the Captain America Civil War movie did that bad. But the comics did it good.
Correct. Yes, that's why in movies they always make one of them
Like right.
right.
Like they try to make Captain America like right. And made Iron Man like the bad guy.
Right.
Yeah.
But
It's
in
better
the,
if it's like choose a side.
yeah, literally because I think it was the Illuminati who kicked him in space. They were correct in that he was very dangerous and would destroy the world, and then they're proved right when he comes back to destroy the world.
But it's more
But
more
he does
because
it
they kicked him in space.
Right, he does it because they kicked him in space. So
That's the whole idea of, prevent the future. You're trying to prevent the future, but
You cause it.
the preventing causes it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the other fun storyline is Chaos War. It's
Not
a
as
cross.
familiar.
It's a crossover. It's like it takes the Japanese god of chaos. It crosses over like their Greek pantheon, the Japanese pantheon, the Norse pantheon, and then a bunch of heroes.
Mhm.
And then the Japanese god of chaos wipes out literally everything, and then there's just like the seven heroes who make a god squad
Yo,
and fight him and,
God squad.
and beat him
pretty cool.
after he's killed like everybody. So the art for it is sick
Yeah.
because it's like this big like black slimy thing standing over like a field of dead heroes.
Yeah. That's awesome.
We love heroes, but we also love to see them die.
Yeah. Nowadays, it's a lot of these crossover events. It's like, let's make movies, but we're really making movies to set up the bigger movies and the bigger comic like storylines and arcs that have the crossovers, right? Like, what's this new theme nowadays with all the multiverse crossovers? Everything's about the multiverse now. There's no such thing as the multiverse.
I think
You're trying to tell me there's another version of us somewhere doing this? No.
No.
Not happening.
We're the only one.
We're the only ones. Yeah, exactly.
I think if we're dipping into movies for a second, I think
But even in the comics, there's like a multiversal thing running around in Marvel right now.
in the comics it works because they
Is it-
can pull stuff in and then they can still run solo adventures.
Right.
In movies, it doesn't work because I think they're literally like about to jump the shark because once you go big in a movie, you can't get less big, right? You can't go back and be a lame
Right.
solo movie again.
Whereas in comics, you can. You can just go on and
Right.
on and on.
In comics, you can go back and do a solo adventure, and that's cool, right? Because like they did Old Man Logan in comics, and they're like, well, great, because Wolverine's like basically immortal. So they're like, all right, 10,000 years from now, everybody else is dead. Here's the adventures of Wolverine. And then they started doing that with other characters after that. But it's still so right, so they can
But it's
find
cool.
new ways to do solo adventures.
Yes.
Movies can't do that.
But yeah, the multiverse thing is a little wild. Right. Imagine if you met yourself, but he was like A, cooler than you, or B, like weaker than you.
Oh,
Like, what would you think?
if it was like a me but cooler, I would be very upset.
Yeah.
Because I would be like, wow, I'm not even. I'm like, if you know you're the lamest version of yourself,
It's like,
you're-
dang.
yeah, you're like,
What if it's a you that's like,
if it's a
weaker?
me that's weaker, I feel like
or
I
like
would,
an old Carter,
gosh.
who's like, eh.
I feel like if it's like me but like slightly younger,
Mhm.
I would just be like, oh, this is
You're freaking toast.
yeah.
You're about to meet this guy who wants to do a talk show with you. It's not going to end well. You die at the end. What? You didn't say that. I don't know, what, anyway.
Wingardium Leviosa.
More of them? Where
Wait.
do they keep coming from?
Wingardium Leviosa.
Leviosoc? Well, there it goes. What?
Wait, sorry. Do that again. Wingardium Leviosa.
What?